Hello and welcome to your favorite YouTube channel, Cloud Expert Solutions, and welcome back to AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate Certification Bootcamp. Today we are diving deep into Amazon S3 Lifecycle Rules to automate the object movement between S3 storage tiers to optimize your storage cost. In this module, we'll start with S3 Lifecycle Rules and Rule Actions. We'll also have a quick demo to review S3 Lifecycle Rules in action, and before completing the video, we will review some exam style questions to solidify your understanding. This is a very important concept and you can expect at least 2 questions from this module. On behalf of the Cloud Expert Solutions team, I would like to thank you for joining us and selecting this bootcamp. Let's get started. We will start with lifecycle rules. If you are thinking, why do we need that? As your applications and data grow, manually managing your S3 objects become a nightmare. This feature lets you automate the entire process, leading to significant cost saving, improved data durability, and better performance. S3 lifecycle rules are a powerful and simple set of rules that you define to manage the lifecycle of your objects, and the primary goal, as I mentioned, is cost optimization. A rule can have 2 main types of action. The first one is transition action. This action automatically moves objects to a different storage class based on the object age. For example, moving a file from the standard tier to the cheaper standard infrequent access tier after 30 days, as we have shown in this diagram. And the other option is expiration action. Under expiration action, these rules permanently delete objects after a specific period, and these are great for cleaning any temporary files or old log data. In terms of scope where you can apply these rules to the entire bucket or to a specific prefix, which is just like a folder, or even objects with a certain tag for more granular control. For the AWS certification, you must familiarize yourself with different S3 storage tiers, minimum retention day for each storage tier, and their use cases. Let's go back to AWS Management Console and let's review the lifecycle rule. Back to my AWS Management Console, and I am at Amazon S3 dashboard. We are going to select our existing bucket that we have created as part of our previous module, and we will click the bucket hyperlink. To configure lifecycle rule, from the menu options, you need to go to management, and the first option inside management is lifecycle rule. I do not have any existing rule, so let's create our first rule. I have used the name as CS Demo Lifecycle Rule. Now you can select the scope of the rule. Either you can apply to all the objects or you can provide a limited scope. Either you can provide a prefix or you can add tag or you can specify based on the object size. I will select for all objects. Now lifecycle rule action. As we discussed, we have 2 different actions. Either you can transition current version of the object between storage classes, or you can transition non-current versions of object between storage classes. Let's select current version. When you select any transition rule, AWS is prompting you that transactions are charged per request and you need to acknowledge that. It also says by default object less than 128 KB will not transition across any storage class. So if your objects are really tiny, they will not be transitioned although you have a rule configured. You can also configure an expiry rule. For the transition rule, here is your storage class, standard IA. You can select any storage tier you want, and then you have to provide the number of days. Either you can provide 30 days or whatever the number based on your use case. You can also add another one transition. First, maybe after 30 days, you are moving to standard IA. Then again, you can move to Glacier Deep Archive, maybe after another 30 days. You can also add an expiry rule. Let's add that. When you configure an expiry rule, you have to provide the number of days after what it is going to delete those objects. Now let's provide 180 days. Here is a flow diagram that S3 has created for you. Day 0, you have uploaded that object. After days 30, it will be moved to standard IA. Then after another 30 days, it will be moved to Glacier deep archive. And then after 180 days, the objects will be expired. If this is what you are looking for your use case, then you can create that rule. We got some validation error. It is saying objects move to Glacier deep archive, and it is saying it must have more than 30 days because after 30 days you are moving to standard IA, and in standard IA it must remain for another 30 days. That is why let's make it to 60 days. And our flow will look like day 0 you are uploading the object, day 30 it will move to standard IA, and then at day 60 it will be moved to Glacier deep archive, and then after 180 days the object will expire. Now let's create the rule. I forgot to acknowledge this rule. I have acknowledged it, and now let's create. Our first lifecycle rule has been created for this bucket. Now whenever we are going to upload any new object, the object will be moved based on this lifecycle rule. Now let's review some exam style questions related to this topic. Question number 1. A company stores daily application logs in an S3 bucket named Cloud Expert Solutions log. The logs are generated and written to the bucket every day. The company's compliance policy requires the log file are retained for a minimum of 180 days. To reduce storage cost, the solution architect wants to implement an automated solution that moves the log file to a lower cost storage after 30 days and then permanently delete them after 180 days. Which configuration should the solution architect apply to the S3 bucket? Now let's review the options one by one. Option number A, create a lifecycle policy to transition objects to S3 Glacier flexible retrieval after 30 days, and then create a second rule to delete object after 180 days. Option A is incorrect because transitioning object directly from S3 standard to Glacier flexible retrieval after 30 days is too aggressive and it ignores the intermediate infrequent access tier. The question says that we need to move the log files to a lower cost storage tier after 30 days, and option A does not talk about that. It is directly moving the object to S3 Glacier flexible retrieval after 30 days. That is why this is not a potential correct option. Let's move to option number B. Create a lifecycle policy to transition objects to S3 standard infrequent access tier after 30 days, and then add an expiration action to permanently delete the objects after 180 days. This option leverages S3 lifecycle rule to automate both the transition and expiration action. It is correctly identifying S3 standard infrequent access because that is what the question wants, and after 180 days it is deleting those objects. So this seems a potential correct option. Let's park it and review the other option. Option number C, create a lifecycle policy with a single rule to transition object to S3 intelligent tiering after 30 days and then expire objects after 180 days. You should use intelligent tiering if you do not know the object pattern or the object access pattern. However, for this question, we have a clear access pattern. That is why intelligent tiering is not the optimal option, because under intelligent tiering, you have to provide a monitoring fee for these objects. That is why option C is not potentially correct. Option B is better than option C. The last option, use S3 batch operation to manually transition all objects older than 30 days to S3 standard IA and schedule a lambda function to delete objects older than 180 days. This is a manual and complex approach. S3 batch operations are useful for one-time or infrequent tasks, but it does not provide the continuous or automated solution. We should go for lifecycle policy rather than a batch operation. That is why option D is also not correct, which makes option B is the correct option. Let's review one more sample question. Question number 2 is saying a data analytics team has an S3 bucket with versioning enabled to protect against accidental object deletion. The team's data is constantly updated, resulting in a large number of older, non-current versions that are driving up storage cost. The team wants to keep non-current version for 90 days for potential recovery, but after that, they want to permanently delete them. How should the solution architect configure the S3 bucket to meet these requirements with lower operational overhead? Now let's review the options. Option A, create an S3 lifecycle rule to transition non-current versions to Glacier flexible retrieval after 90 days. This option is talking about moving the object to a lower cost tier after 90 days, but it is not talking about permanently deleting. That is why the requirement to delete the object is not covered under option A. Let's review the option B. Create a Lambda function that runs daily to identify and delete non-current versions older than 90 days. Option B will create unnecessary operational overhead because a custom Lambda function requires development, maintenance and monitoring, and this is not the cost-effective option. Rather, we can create lifecycle rule. That is why option B is also not correct. Moving to option C, create an S3 lifecycle rule to permanently delete non-current versions after 90 days. This option is directly addressing the core problem of managing cost from old versions, but this is not the best solution for us. So let's park it and let's review the last option. Option D, create an S3 lifecycle rule to permanently delete all objects older than 90 days. Option D is dangerous and incorrect option because a lifecycle rule that deletes all objects older than 90 days would permanently delete the current version of the object. And this is not the requirement. That is why option D is also not correct. And this makes option C is the correct option, although this is not the best or cost optimal solution. During the certification exam, your effort should be to select the most optimal option or solution from the given options. This is another one sample question for you to try. I would request you to please pause the video here, evaluate the given 4 options and then post your answer as a comment to this video. You can also provide your supporting logic for the answer. Cloud Expert Solutions team will review your answer and confirm your understanding. Our team normally respond to any comments or provide clarifications within 24 hours, which you won't get even for paid Udemy courses. That wraps up this module. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more AWS exam preparation courses and cloud certification bootcamps. Got questions or feedback? Drop them in the comment. We love to hear from you. Thanks for learning with us at Cloud Expert Solutions. You are now one step closer to crushing your exam. See you in the next module.